The model we're documenting tonight is typically affordable. For a Gibson, anyway. Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. And by affordable, we're talking about $1,200 plus or minus $400, depending on condition and originality, as the typical used values in 2025. But check this thing out. This is known as the Gibson Flying V Pro. The one thing that makes this so different from all other Flying Vs within Gibson's history is not only does it have the fretboard binding, but it actually features a bound body as well. That's just not something that you see on a Gibson every day. And usually I'm not a huge fan of ebony finishes, but that cream with the darkness and then the blending of that with the pickups, this thing's looking really sweet. But this is officially known as the 2016 Flying V Pro T. The T stands for traditional. There was also a Flying V Pro HP done the same year. The T was $1,299 brand new and originally shipped with a gig bag. However, there were blowouts. Yeah, you guys remember that? End of year model blowouts for as low as $800, whereas the HP was $1,649. Those featured the wider necks with the titanium nut and the robo tuners. And they came with a hard shell case. So if you're trying to decide if you want the high performance or the traditional, the guitar, from what I can see spec-wise, it's the exact same pickups and everything. It's just the tuners and neck style. Both series were offered in only ebony and wine red. Now, if you go to Reverb's guide and you see that Silverburst is also listed, that's because somebody has refinished one of these into an aged Silverburst, so I think their AI programming ended up picking that up. That was not an official color that I'm aware of. But the next feature that makes this unique is it's a gloss top, but originally started life a satin back. Now you can see where the neck has naturally been played into a gloss, but if you look at the backside of the headstock, you can still see the satin nature. But this thing is just a cool blend of all the Flying V specs. It's very 70s or 60s in style with our 3-screw truss rod cover. The control layout is reminiscent of a 50s style Flying V, as those had 3 in a line with an output jack located on the front, but pay special attention to where the toggle switch is on those. They've taken that design and modified it. So we moved our toggle switch from here down there, and we've kind of staggered our knobs and added more space right there. And then instead of having the output jack all the way down here, it's moved a little closer. And if that's not enough for you, we also have fancy electronics in this thing that we'll talk about later. You can tell we still have the 60s style body. However, note we don't have any pickguard at all, so that brings some 80s elements in with this thing. I know what you're thinking. Is the Flying V Pro T a smaller guitar, similar to how the 2000s era Explorer Pros are slightly shrunken down? Well, let's take the measurements. As if we measure our wingspan, about 15 3/4 inches, whereas over here, that's 16 1/4. I know you can't see me anymore, but the 50s style is about 16 3/4 inches. And from the heel to the middle, it's 12 and 13 over here. So from what we just measured there, yes, I do believe the Flying V Pro was slightly shrunken down. Which now that I think about it, a lot of guys don't like Flying Vs because they feel that they're just too big of a guitar on them. So maybe try one of these out if you happen to fall in that camp. But if you want a full-size body, what else could you consider that is a body-bound Gibson Flying V? The first one that I know that Gibson created was a 1971 Flying V Custom. That one now resides within the Jim Irsay estate. But other than that, Gibson really lagged on this. It was other companies who made them famous. One influence for them might actually be Albert King's Lucy. That's a Dan Erlewine 1971 created custom guitar. That thing's cool. And then in the 70s, companies like Hamer as well as Dean Electric Guitars produced their own versions. So it's really not until about 1981 that Gibson comes out with something called the VCMT, CMT standing for Curly Maple Top. It's got this awesome cherry sunburst color. It's very Dean-like, but that has the full body binding edge. And then the 90s is kind of a rebirth period. They weren't really experimenting too much in that aspect. The next time we see something like this is in the early 2000s. They actually formally create the Flying V Custom in a few small batches. But by the 2010s, you have signature editions like the Brendan Small Snow Falcon, the Zakk Wylde Flying V, with its bullseye paint job adorning it. Then in the 2020s, they're still making regular Flying V Customs now. You can get some cool non-traditional colors. There's the crazy Adam Jones Flying V with the Futura-style headstock, reverse silver burst finish. Don't forget about the Dave Mustaine custom shop Flying Vs. Those also have the bound edge. If you know of any more that I missed, please leave them in the comments section. Let's learn together. So overall, your options are slim for a bound body Flying V from the parent company. But I hope this video helps you make informed decisions on which model might be right for you. But I know when an 80s Flying V is $2,500 brand new, don't be sleeping on these things on the used market, that's for sure. I saw this one on Island Music Company's website and said, yep, even if it is more so player's grade, we need to bring it into document. So thanks, Keith, for adding that gig bag. He said he was a fan of the show after I'd made the order with one of his sales associates. So shout out to you, Keith. Let's go ahead and throw it onto the workbench now to take a look at its parts and specs. We'll go ahead and start with our pickups. Outside of being zebra bobbins, what models are we utilizing? Well, it's a good thing spec sheets exist, otherwise we might not know. It does answer the age-old question, does the sticker or water slide patent applied for decal come first? Sticker, and then they put that over that. But it's a 57 Classic. And is it paired with another 57? No, it's actually a Burstbucker 3 in these models. As far as the readings within the circuit, you get 8.47 k ohms in the bridge, 7.8 in the neck, and they play together at 4.06. I told you earlier about fancy electronics. It's the push-pull pots. Let's see, are they tap or split? All right, you get a half reading, so we are officially splitting these pickups, not tapping in this particular case. Gibson does do a little bit of both, though. Something I'm noticing, due to the fact that these are push-pull pots and this one's different, they have different feels to them. This is like a regular pot, nothing crazy. You've got some mild internal cracking to the knob. But this one's ultra quick. But this one, listen to it. As compared to the other, it sounds like it's dragging just a little bit. And I notice it's a lot harder to pull it up on the 10 position than it is down here. So it's possible that pot might be going bad. Just want to let you know. As of now, though, it still seems to function. I also want to let you know this output jack. You hear that? Somebody has really bent those prongs in. I mean, this was somebody's stage guitar. You don't want that coming out. It also appears that they added a washer around it to prevent further cracking. If you ever see that, it's always good to check underneath just in case, because sometimes the Flying V can crack here, or somebody steps on it and it takes up a chunk of wood. This appears to be fine, they just wanted extra stability. But while we got the bright light over here, you can see somebody's ring or finger picks or something really dented up the finish. This is a player's grade instrument. It's got nicks, dings, and scratches all over. If anything, it's rather refreshing. It cleaned up nicely, but there's still some hazing to the finish. That's permanent. I mean, outside of like a super buffing job from a wheel, but you've got some scratches. There's actually lots of finish checking on this thing too. That's primarily on the neck, but this will be for sale in my shop afterwards if you're interested in a player's grade version of this guitar. I just picked it up because I've been meaning to document one of these for a while. As far as our pickup cavities, here's what we're working with. Marked EB for ebony, short neck tenon. Then we got DVCG with our typical late 2010s era routes, meaning you've got some splinters within them. They're not the cleanest in the world, but it was a cool time for Gibson when they were doing a whole bunch of experimental stuff. We've got a regular Nashville-style bridge that utilizes the bushings within the body, but they are made by API, and it is a full-weight tailpiece. Now, before we move on from the body, I want to talk about the bound edge and a reason why maybe this isn't right for you. The binding comes to a little bit more of a point, whereas a regular Flying V body, it's not super rounded over, but it is slightly contoured. So it has a slightly softer edge to it. Now, that said, in theory, you probably could take some sandpaper and file that down just a little bit without changing the whole overall look of the instrument, because that's just plastic material rather than wood that you would be removing. But it does have a slightly sharper edge, if that's of any consideration to you. But now moving on to our fretboard. It's not uncommon to see a bound Flying V up here, but this model also utilizes that. It has premium acrylic dot inlays. I thought that was funny when I read that on the spec sheet. They're just Gibson's cheapest style of inlay, but hey, that's what Flying Vs are known for. 22 frets. Despite all the play wear on this thing, I don't notice too much fret wear. Like, you just have the very light beginning signs of it. I would imagine you've got many years left on this. And the rosewood wood grain and coloring is actually quite nice. Although the spec sheet calls this a thicker rosewood fretboard. Now, unfortunately, on this model, we can't see it, but that was just something that they were doing. If I remember correctly, it's because the necks weren't the proper thickness, so they just chunked these up to make it about normal. I could be misremembering that. Could have just been a marketing gimmick too. But it's a 24 and 3/4 inch scale length, still retaining that 12-inch fretboard radius. And being the traditional one, you get 1.71 inches at the nut, 210 by the 12. And then here's where a lot of people like these, 0.815 first fret neck depth, and only 0.85 by the 12th. It's a very slim neck. Actually just calls it slim taper, but I would say it feels more like a D-shaped neck where you can feel a little bit of a ledge on both sides of the neck where it's humped over. There's some shoulder to that neck. It feels very similar to some SGs I've had, but not like too crazy. Here it is on the contour gauge so you can make your own judgments yourself. We've got a disclosure thing here. The nut has been professionally replaced. There is some finish checking stemming from that. However, I don't think that actually came from the nut change job. It's hard to show it in this lighting, but that continues all the way up the edge of the neck. But this just looks like it was in a hot and cold trailer being taken from gig to gig. It's the good kind of finish checking. I don't see anything nefarious on this. Although I will say, this one scared me at first when I unboxed it, but then I saw how it continued and was joined by many others. And here you can see some along the edge of the body. And that's another thing to know about the binding, is there will be a line that shows from where the binding truly ends and the body begins. That is present all around this on pretty much all of them. And now our headstock. Here's what it looks like cleaned up. I wanted to do the polishing process because I saw it looked oily or something up here. What that ended up being, it has to be a reaction to something that the guy had on this, like a clip-on tuner for an extended period of time. But we do have some unevenness to the finish up there. The rest, honestly, cleaned up all right. If you're looking at yours and thinking, hey, mine doesn't have Grover tuners, that's because these have been replaced. And here's a look at our truss rod cover. It's got that gold Gibson logo, and it is a 3-ply material, white, black, and white. And our rod is in perfect condition. And before we flip it on over, I thought we should take the thickness of the body, see if that's different too. I get about 1.65 inches. This one I measure 1.53 and 1.48 on the 50 style. So it's actually thicker. If I remember, we're comparing a 2000s to a 90s to a 2016. There might be some slight variations within there. But if you're wondering, did they actually add a maple top to this and then bind it? No. We can see a small chip right here that goes straight through to the mahogany body. But now onto the back. Here's what it looks like after I cleaned it. All I did was one round of scratch X. I didn't really want to transform the satin nature of the back of the finish, just get it cleaned up. But here you can see scratches, finish checking. It really kind of looks cool. This is like a deeper impression. I thought maybe it would polish out, but no. But the white scuff marks down here did. But he must have had something attached to the guitar right here. Those are some pretty gnarly dings. They more so look like a reaction to something. But here's what you're looking at in one of these. If you wanted to install something else, you do have a little bit of room. If you need a fourth pot, or if you want a in and out of phase switch or something. I went ahead and lubricated that pot to see if that would help, but it still sounds about the same. But here you can see the style of push-pull pots that they were using. And then our regular Gibson branded pot over here with our blue capacitor and L-shaped toggle switch. Take a second to appreciate the edges. You've got one strap button down here. It's the large style. You see another finished ding there. And your other one is at the base of the heel. But hopefully this lighting shows off some of the finish checking along the binding as well as the body. Definitely not for somebody who wants a mint condition guitar, but this seems like it's going to be a great player. I'm excited to get to plug it in. But the neck I did a full polish on because I hate necks that don't feel even. So this one is now even. I'll hold it in this other lighting situation so you can see those finish checks I was talking about. That's all humidity, heat related, even though they do look kind of scary. You can even see them on the backside of our headstock. But inspired by the Vivian Campbell Les Paul, I thought, What if I try to do a satin stinger and then gloss neck? Well, that was a little bit of a fail, but it was a great learning experience because A, I can show you this is how it started life, and this is what it can be played and or polished into for a semi-gloss. I mean, the difference is quite vast right there. But to do this, I just taped it off. And I've now realized there's probably a better technique. Because what I did is I basically took a long strip of tape and I tried to get it into the shape, but I found it hard to get that point. I think a good way to do that would be to piece some of this painter's tape together like this, take an X-Acto knife and score it into the shape that you want, and then put that over the headstock, and then you can get that nice point. So I can't wait for my next player's grade satin finished guitar, because I'm going to find a way to do it, and that's just going to become my new signature calling card on everything. So if you buy this guitar and you're wondering, what's up with that? Is that some weird headstock repair? Nah. That's just me experimenting. Next string change if you want to take the tuners off and polish up the back to match that. Easily done. But that says Made in USA 2016 model, and this was when they were using the year production number serials. So this also dates to 2016. Here you can see we've got some dings up here and the holes from the original Clusen style tuners showing on top of our Grovers. Guitars like these are always fun to do a blacklight test on. Everything looks fairly even as I was expecting, but you can see a little bit of sweat absorption right there. So this player must have liked to anchor his hand there and do his work. That is a very common playing style. Not something you're going to notice in regular lighting situations. Sure enough, we can see what I was talking about on the headstock. It really looks like he just taped something there, like maybe the set list or something. I guess that would kind of make sense if it was a gaffer's tape or something. Sometimes those can react to nitro. The back shows a little bit of stand rash. He must have had a sticker of some sort on there at one point. I mean, that glows kind of interestingly. You know what I bet it was? Do you think he used a wireless pack and he just had it attached to the guitar? Because that's right where the output jack is. That would be my best guess. And then, of course, we got those dings and stuff over there. It's fun how black lights can help you tell the history. Hopefully only good histories, though. The neck has a very even glow. I was expecting to see some like clear coat wear, but no, everything is looking good over here. Just our finish check and a closer look at our nut change area. I'm going to stick with what I said earlier, that that's just strictly cosmetic. It's not actually a wood crack. But if you don't agree with me, go ahead and pass on this. It does look like we might have a small spacer underneath our nut, though. It glows a bit different. All said and done, though, this one weighs just a little under 7 pounds, 6 pounds, 12 and a half ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how it sounds. I just want to say, instantly on a strap, this thing feels right. That thicker body was a great decision on Gibson's part because it helps weigh this down a little bit. Because since they shrunk it, it would just become neck heavy. This particular example stays wherever you want it to stay. It's great and it feels really lightweight. So let's go ahead and grab some tones. Very chimey. It feels very comfortable to play all the way up here, even with chords. Even on the dirty channel, it's very... articulate and clear. I bet it'll do the death clock stuff nice. That's always my test for clarity of a pickup, that riff there. If you can hear this bottom note, you know it's a clear pickup, even on that neck position. Let's turn up that gain a bit. The coil splits are interesting. They just add a little bit more bite and aggression to your tones. There we go. What are my final thoughts on the Flying V Pro T from 2016? I just picked it up because I thought, hey, it's kind of a cool bound Flying V. You don't see that every day, but I am seriously impressed. If you're looking for that kind of wood shreddy tone, these pickups give you that in spades. You really don't even need the coil splitting, to be honest, but it's nice to have the option for when you do occasionally need it. This guitar was just inspiring me to play a whole bunch of different artists, from Buckethead to Ozzy, a little bit of Randy, Zakk Wylde, all that good stuff. So my honest opinion, I used to really love 70s Flying Vs and always suggest them if you had the budget. And if you fell short, go for one of the 2000s era faded Flying Vs. And now that those things have come up in price, I'll definitely be adding the Flying V Pro T to that suggestion list. Something about the proportions of this body just feels right. And I'm a taller guy too, so if you were scared that it would feel too tiny, I mean, it's a little bit smaller, but it just feels good in the hand. I saw a lot of forum talk about how people just love this neck profile. Usually, I don't like thin necks like this, but even I was jiving with this one. So even if you're not interested in this particular one, I mean, I could care less. Try one of these out if you're a Flying V guy. The only thing that I could say bad about this outside of cosmetics is I think there was a reason somebody changed the tuners. It does struggle to stay perfectly in tune. It's not binding at the nut. It might just more so be an intonation thing and maybe have some binding there at the saddles that a little bit of lubrication or swapping into Graphtex should help with. But all right, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed. And if you are interested in this one, you can find it for sale now on my website, troglysguitarshow.com. We'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.